5 most powerful ancient spiritual societies that still exist today. There are whispers of ancient wisdom hidden in the shadows of time, secrets carried forward by a select few who have preserved their spiritual traditions for centuries. These societies, shrouded in mystery, hold knowledge that transcends the material world, offering guidance to those who seek the truth. You may have heard of them in passing, but do you truly understand their significance? What if I told you that their influence still lingers today, subtly shaping the world in ways you never imagined? Our journey begins with an exploration into the depths of spiritual history, where the lines between myth and reality blur. Imagine an age where wisdom was not merely taught but earned through trials, where enlightenment was not a concept but a lived experience. These societies were not built for the faint of heart, nor were they meant for the masses. They were created for those who dared to go beyond the illusions of the physical realm, for those willing to surrender their worldly attachments in pursuit of something greater.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first society we encounter is one that has existed for thousands of years, hidden in the mountains, concealed behind the veils of secrecy. The Himalayan Yogis. You've heard of monks and ascetics dedicating their lives to meditation, but the true masters go far beyond what most can comprehend. These individuals harness energies unknown to modern science, controlling their heart rates, generating body heat in freezing temperatures, and even entering states of consciousness where their awareness expands beyond time itself. Have you ever sat in complete silence, truly listening to the space between your thoughts? The yogis have perfected this practice to such an extent that they become one with the universe, dissolving their ego entirely. And yet, they remain among us, unseen, influencing the world with their silent wisdom. But why do they choose to hide? Why don't they share their secrets openly? The answer is simple: most people are not ready. If the mind is unprepared, knowledge becomes a burden rather than a gift. Think about the last time you tried to explain a deep personal revelation to someone who couldn't understand. Frustrating, isn't it? Now magnify that frustration 1,000-fold, and you'll glimpse why these yogis prefer to remain in solitude. However, for those who seek them with pure intent, the doors to their world may open, revealing a path few dare to walk. Moving from the Himalayas, we shift our focus to another ancient order, one that has wielded profound influence over the spiritual evolution of humanity: the Freemasons. But unlike the yogis, the Freemasons are not hidden in distant lands. They are among us, integrated into society, yet their true purpose remains veiled. They speak in symbols, encode their teachings in rituals, and guide those who enter their ranks towards self-mastery. But what is it that makes them so powerful? The answer lies in their philosophy. The Freemasons understand that true enlightenment is not given, it is earned through discipline, self-reflection, and the pursuit of knowledge. Their teachings are not about blind faith, but about understanding the deeper mechanics of existence. They believe in the power of transformation, in the idea that a person can refine themselves like a craftsman polishes a rough stone into a perfect form. And here's something to ponder: if you had access to knowledge that could elevate your consciousness beyond the ordinary, would you use it for self-betterment, or would you seek power over others? This is where the Freemasons differ from ordinary seekers. They impose strict ethical codes to ensure that power is not misused. Yet, the very secrecy of their society has led to endless speculation. Are they truly guardians of wisdom? Or have some among them been corrupted by the very power they sought to wield responsibly? The duality of light and shadow exists in all things, and the Freemasonic Order is no exception. But what if we go even further, beyond structured teachings and into the realm of raw, untamed spiritual force? That's where the next society comes into play, the shamans of the Amazon. But unlike the disciplined practices of the yogis or the structured philosophy of the Freemasons, the shamans operate in a world where spirit and matter intertwine seamlessly. They do not simply study spirituality, they live it in its most visceral form. Imagine being deep in the rainforest, surrounded by the pulse of nature, the hum of unseen energies filling the air. The shamans do not see the world as we do. To them, plants are not just plants, they are teachers, holders of ancient wisdom. And through sacred rituals involving plant medicines like ayahuasca, they travel to realms that defy logic, where spirits, ancestors, and other worldly beings communicate in ways that words cannot capture. But here's a question for you: how much of reality do we actually perceive? If we could expand our consciousness, would we see the world as the shamans do? Or would we be overwhelmed, unable to process the depth of existence? This is why these practices are not for everyone. But some who enter these ceremonies return transformed, others lose themselves entirely, unable to integrate what they have witnessed. The shamans understand this danger, which is why initiation into their ways is often grueling, requiring years of training before one is deemed ready to carry their knowledge. What ties these societies together? Despite their differences, they all share one fundamental truth: spiritual power is not something to be taken lightly. It requires responsibility, discipline, and above all, an understanding that true enlightenment is not about escaping reality, but about seeing it clearly for what it is. And so, we have only begun to scratch the surface. There are more societies, more hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. But before we continue, I want you to ask yourself, if you were given the chance to enter one of these societies, to learn their secrets, would you accept? And more importantly, would you be ready for what you might find? The guardians of forbidden knowledge, two more ancient societies that shape our world. Beyond the mist of history, there exist spiritual orders so secretive, so deeply woven into the very fabric of existence, that their influence is nearly imperceptible unless you know where to look. These groups do not seek attention, nor do they crave recognition. Instead, they safeguard knowledge that, if misused, could shift the course of civilization itself. What happens when wisdom becomes too powerful? What happens when the fabric of reality is understood so deeply that it can be bent, shaped, even rewritten? These are the questions that these ancient societies have pondered for centuries, and their answers are not meant for the uninitiated. One such society walks the fine line between mysticism and science, between philosophy and magic. The Druids. To the untrained eye, they might be dismissed as remnants of a bygone era, their traditions buried beneath layers of myth and modern skepticism. But the truth is far more complex. The Druids were not merely priests or nature worshippers. They were the keepers of an ancient system of knowledge that bridged the physical and metaphysical worlds. They understood the patterns of the cosmos, the hidden language of nature, and the profound interconnectedness of all things. Imagine walking through a dense forest, feeling the pulse of life in every leaf, every stone, every gust of wind. To the Druids, this was not imagination, it was reality. They could read the whispers of the earth, the movements of the stars, the subtle energies that most of us are blind to. They performed rituals that were not mere ceremonies, but precise manipulations of natural forces, aligning human consciousness with the greater rhythms of the universe. And here's something to consider: what if we have lost not only their knowledge but also our ability to even perceive it? What if the modern world has dulled our senses to a point where we can no longer hear the messages that nature constantly sends? The Druids knew that true power lay in understanding, not domination. They did not seek to control the world, but rather to exist in harmony with it. Yet, as history unfolded, their wisdom was deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable. But much of it was driven underground, hidden in symbols, encoded in folklore, waiting for those who could still see beyond the veil. And while their public presence may have faded, their influence lingers in ways most do not realize. Have you ever felt an inexplicable connection to nature, an unshakable sense that there is more to reality than what is readily visible? That is the echo of Druidic wisdom, reverberating through time, waiting for those who are ready to listen. But what if there was a society even older, even more enigmatic? One that predates written history, one that whispers secrets so profound that even the most enlightened minds struggle to comprehend them. Enter the Hermetic Order. Unlike the Druids, who drew their wisdom from nature, the Hermeticists sought to understand the very mechanics of existence itself. Their teachings, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, form the foundation of countless spiritual, philosophical, and even scientific traditions. They believed in the principle of as above, so below, the idea that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, that the same forces governing the stars also govern the human soul. Pause for a moment and truly think about that. If this principle is true, then understanding the universe is the same as understanding yourself. And if you mastered yourself completely, could you in turn master reality? This is the question the Hermeticists sought to answer. They studied alchemy, not merely as a means of turning lead into gold, but as a metaphor for spiritual transformation. They explored astrology, not as mere superstition, but as a map of cosmic forces influencing human destiny. They understood that true enlightenment was not about escaping the human experience, but about transcending its limitations. Yet, their knowledge was feared. Why? Because those in power understood that true wisdom cannot be controlled. A person who understands the Hermetic principles can never be manipulated, never be enslaved by dogma, never be bound by the illusions of the material world. And so, their teachings were suppressed, hidden in cryptic texts, scattered across different traditions, waiting for those who possessed both the intellect and the intuition to decipher them. But here's the real question: why does this knowledge remain hidden? Is it because the world is not ready, or is it because those in power do not want the world to be ready? If the masses truly understood the nature of reality, the extent of their own potential, would society as we know it even function? The answer is both exhilarating and terrifying. The Hermeticists, like the Druids, like the Yogis, like the Shamans, understood something fundamental: knowledge is not inherently good or evil. It is the intent behind its use that determines its impact. That some seek wisdom for enlightenment, others for control. This is why these societies have survived in the shadows, not because they wish to exclude, but because they know that not all who seek are ready. And so we are left with a choice. Do we remain in the comfortable illusions of the modern world, content with surface-level understanding? Or do we dare to look deeper, to question everything, to seek out the hidden truths that have been safeguarded for millennia? The path is not easy, nor is it without risk. But for those who choose to walk it, the rewards are beyond measure. Now, let me ask you, if you were given a book containing all the hidden knowledge of the universe, would you open it? And if you did, would you be prepared for what you found? The last hidden society, a legacy of power, mystery, and the ultimate truth. Among all the secretive and powerful spiritual societies that have survived the tides of time, there exists one that stands above the rest, not because of its wealth, political influence, or sheer numbers, but because it guards something that transcends all of that: the true nature of existence itself. This society does not seek followers, nor does it recruit members. It simply exists, hidden in plain sight, influencing the course of history through those who stumble upon its wisdom and prove themselves worthy of understanding it. Some call them the Keepers, others refer to them as the Invisible Order. But their true name does not matter. What matters is what they know. Unlike the Freemasons, the Druids, or the Shamans, this society has no physical temples, no grand rituals, no external symbols that can be traced. Instead, it operates in the realm of pure knowledge, encoded within the fabric of reality itself. Its members are not bound by bloodlines or oaths, but by a shared understanding, and understanding that reality is not what it seems. To the untrained mind, the world appears solid, predictable, governed by laws that science has mapped out. But those who have glimpsed beyond the veil know otherwise. They know that consciousness shapes reality, that time is not linear, and that the human mind is far more powerful than it has been led to believe. What if I told you that every thought you have, every emotion you feel, ripples out into the universe, influencing the world around you in ways you cannot yet perceive? The Keepers have understood this for centuries, but they have seen civilizations rise and fall, not because of external forces alone, but because of the collective consciousness of the people within them. When humanity moves in harmony, miracles happen. When fear and division take hold, destruction follows. This knowledge is not mystical, it is fundamental. And yet, it remains hidden, buried beneath distractions, misinformation, and societal conditioning that keeps people from realizing their true potential. But here's the real mystery: if this society holds such profound knowledge, why do they not intervene? Why do they not reveal themselves and guide humanity toward enlightenment? The answer is simple: free will. The path to understanding must be walked, not given. If enlightenment were handed to the masses without effort, it would be meaningless. Imagine giving a book of ultimate wisdom to someone who has never sought knowledge. Would they recognize its value? Would they even read it? The Keepers understand this paradox, and so they wait, leaving traces of their wisdom for those who are ready to find it. These traces exist everywhere, hidden in ancient texts, in the symbols scattered throughout history, in the teachings that have been passed down by those who have come close to the truth. Sometimes they manifest through individuals who unknowingly channel this wisdom: great thinkers, philosophers, artists, and visionaries who shift the consciousness of humanity forward. Have you ever encountered an idea so profound that it changed the way you saw the world? That was no coincidence. That was a ripple from something far greater than any single person. But perhaps you are beginning to understand now. Perhaps you have always felt that there was something more, something just beyond the edge of perception, waiting for you to notice it. But if so, then you are already on the path, whether you realize it or not. The truth does not reveal itself all at once. It unfolds, piece by piece, as you prove yourself ready to receive it. And that is what the Keepers have always known. But here's the ultimate question: if you were to uncover the final secret, the ultimate truth that this society protects, what would you do with it? Would you use it to elevate yourself above others, Or would you use it to bring light where there is darkness? This is the test that all seekers must face, the choice that defines whether one is truly ready. Because knowledge alone is not power. The real power lies in how you use it. The keepers do not demand loyalty, nor do they require initiation. They simply watch, waiting for those who will ask the right questions, who will seek with purity of intent. And if you are one of them, if you feel the pull towards something greater, then know this: you are not alone in your search. The path is difficult, and the answers will not always be clear. But if you continue to seek, if you continue to question, then one day you may find yourself standing at the threshold of understanding, ready to step beyond the illusion and into the truth. And so, I leave you with one final thought. If the greatest wisdom of all time was placed in your hands at this very moment, would you truly be ready to understand it? Or would you, like so many before you, mistake it for something ordinary and let it slip away? The answer to that question may determine your destiny. The final revelation, what these ancient societies have been trying to tell us all along. After journeying through the hidden corridors of history, exploring the depths of the most powerful spiritual societies that still exist today, one question lingers: that what is the ultimate truth they have been guarding? Why have they endured through time, preserving their wisdom while civilizations crumbled around them? The answer is both profound and unsettling. It is not a single secret, not a forbidden piece of knowledge locked away in ancient texts, but rather a realization, a truth so simple, so fundamental, that most overlook it entirely. And yet, it has the power to reshape everything we believe about life, existence, and our place in the universe. Each of these societies, the Yogis, the Freemasons, the Shamans, the Druids, the hermeticists, and the keepers, have all pointed toward the same underlying reality, and consciousness is the true force of creation. But the world we perceive is not separate from us, but is, in fact, a reflection of our own awareness. But the limitations we experience, the struggles we endure, the boundaries we believe are real, all of them are constructs of the mind. And here lies the great paradox. The only prison that has ever truly existed is the illusion that we are powerless. Think about this for a moment. Every great spiritual teacher, every enlightened master, every ancient tradition has, in some form or another, tried to convey this message. The yogis speak of dissolving the ego to merge with universal consciousness, but the Freemasons encode their teachings in symbols, urging seekers to refine themselves into something greater. But the shamans journey into altered states to access realms beyond ordinary perception. The Druids saw the divine intelligence within nature itself. The hermeticists declared, "As above, so below," revealing the interconnectedness of the cosmos and the self. And the keepers, they have silently ensured that this wisdom never disappears, waiting for those who are ready to receive it. But why is this truth so difficult to grasp? Because humanity has been conditioned to look outward for answers, to seek validation from authority, but to believe that meaning is something external to be found, rather than something internal to be realized. But we are trained from birth to accept a version of reality that keeps us confined within a narrow spectrum of consciousness, never questioning the deeper nature of existence. And yet, those who have dared to look beyond the surface have always arrived at the same understanding: reality is shaped by the mind. You control the mind, and you control your reality. This is why these societies have remained hidden. Not because they seek to hoard power, but because they understand that true wisdom cannot be forced upon those who are not ready. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you thought was impossible was simply a limitation you had imposed upon yourself. Would you embrace that realization, or would you reject it out of fear? Most people are not prepared to dismantle the illusions that define their lives. It is easier to remain within the comfort of the known than to step into the unknown, even if the unknown holds the key to true liberation. And yet, the choice remains. The path is always there, waiting for those who are willing to walk it. The ancient societies we have explored are not relics of the past. They are living testaments to a truth that has never faded. They are reminders that enlightenment is not a destination but a state of being, accessible to anyone who dares to seek it. The great masters did not possess something that you do not. They simply let go of the illusions that prevented them from seeing what was always there. So now, the final question is yours to answer. Will you continue to live as you always have, accepting the limitations imposed upon you by society, by fear, by doubt? Or will you begin to question everything, to seek the truth for yourself, to step beyond the boundaries of conditioned perception and into the vast, infinite potential of your own consciousness? The choice has always been yours. It always will be. The door to understanding is not locked, it is simply waiting for you to open it. And once you do, you will realize that the greatest secret of all was never hidden from you. It was within you all along.